It's hard to remember a time when the Marvel Cinematic Universe wasn't a part of our lives. It's been over 10 years since Robert Downey Jr. burst onto the big screen as Iron Man. Since then, we've been treated to 21 MCU films and counting. But big changes are ahead for the franchise. Disney, the owner of Marvel Studios, will acquire 21st Century Fox. This means Disney's also acquiring several Marvel properties, opening up the possibility of incorporating these characters into the MCU. Also, with the release of Avengers Endgame on April 26, 2019, the Infinity Stone arc that the franchise has told from the beginning will come to an end. This opens up new story possibilities while also bringing other storylines to a close. Let's explore the ins and outs of what all this means for the future of Marvel movies. If you're a fan of Marvel, then one of the most exciting developments of the Disney-Fox merger is the fact that Fox's Marvel properties will return home to Disney-owned Marvel Studios. That includes the X-Men, the Fantastic Four, and Deadpool. These characters have been the property of Fox ever since the MCU started, so the MCU movies have always occupied a completely separate universe from the X-Men films, Deadpool, and the Fantastic Four. But in the comic books, the characters from these different movie series have often crossed over. And when Disney and Fox finally make things official, that can happen in the MCU as well. So if you've been clamoring for a Wolverine-Black Panther team-up, that's now a distinct possibility. However, that doesn't mean the X-Men will be swooping in to save the day in Avengers Endgame. Head of Marvel Studios Kevin Feige, known as the mastermind behind the MCU, has said that Fox's Marvel characters will return to the fold in the first half of 2019. That said, Feige and his team haven't started thinking about bringing the characters into the MCU just yet. There are a couple reasons for that. First and foremost is the fact that Marvel Studios has 3 movie releases already slated for 2019 and is currently developing several films to feature in the upcoming Phase 4. We'll fill you in on that a bit later. It's possible an X-Men or Fantastic Four character could be introduced in one of the films Marvel currently has in development, but given the plans the studio already has in the works, it may not be likely. Plus, when it comes to the X-Men at least, the franchise that started over at Fox years ago still has at least one more movie scheduled to come out. That's Dark Phoenix, which is scheduled to premiere on June 7th, 2019. And although it's less certain, the X-Men horror film The New Mutants could premiere later this year as well. It's unlikely Feige and Marvel Studios would want to integrate the X-Men into the MCU until after the release of these films. Marvel will want to recast the roles and set up their own MCU integrated X-Men, much like they did when they recast and rebooted Spider-Man when he became part of the MCU with Spider-Man Homecoming. Feige has expressed excitement about the possibility of integrating the Fantastic Four, X-Men, and Deadpool into the MCU, but so far he's been non-committal about confirming any plans. Others in Feige's orbit, like Avengers Endgame director Joe Russo, however, have said that it's definitely going to happen. The only question is when. Back in April of 2018, Feige said that even after the Disney-Fox deal goes through, it could be years before Fox's Marvel characters show up in the MCU. That would mean it probably wouldn't happen in the MCU's next phase. We'll likely have to wait until Phase 5 for the anticipated integration to finally come about. This leads to another question. In recent years, Fox has had a lot of success pushing the boundaries with their superhero films, especially with the R-rated Deadpool franchise, which would lose something if it were toned down to fit Disney's family-friendly image. The same thing would be true for a vehicle like Logan, the critically acclaimed and Oscar-nominated final chapter in Hugh Jackman's run as Wolverine. The movie wouldn't have packed the emotional wallop that it did without going into R-rated territory. As Disney movies, the MCU has famously stayed safely in PG-13 territory. Could that become the norm for all the Fox Marvel properties newly coming under Disney's umbrella? According to Bob Iger, Disney's CEO, the answer is a firm no. Iger acknowledged that the studio has typically shied away from being too adult-oriented with its content, but Iger wants to continue to serve the audience that has made Deadpool and Logan such a success. It just might not be under the Disney banner. On a call with investors, Iger said that properties like Deadpool would continue, but they would be branded differently than other Disney movies. They'd probably be labeled Fox properties so they wouldn't confuse consumers who are used to Disney branding meaning wholesome family entertainment. So there should be no worries about the continuation of the Deadpool series at least. In fact, Rob Liefeld, Deadpool's creator, has already assured fans on Twitter that Deadpool 3 will happen. Of course, the separation of Deadpool and other R-rated Fox properties from the Disney brand also means those movies won't be available on Disney's upcoming streaming service Disney Plus either. Once the merger with Fox is complete though, Disney will own a majority of another well-established streaming platform, Hulu. And that's probably where any R-rated movies like Deadpool would end up, keeping Disney Plus family-friendly. That said, it's also worth mentioning that the launch of Disney Plus will signal a new dawn for the way MCU fans stream those movies. In the last several years, Netflix subscribers have gotten used to the latest MCU films becoming available on the service after their initial theatrical runs. That changes with Captain Marvel, which will be the first recent MCU movie that won't be streaming on Netflix. Instead, Disney is taking the MCU movies back so it can release them on the Disney Plus. This will make the new streaming service that much more attractive to Marvel fans when it becomes available later in 2019. And that brings us to another question. If the Disney-Fox deal won't change the MCU that much, at least not right away, what changes will happen to the franchise after Avengers Endgame? The MCU movies have been telling a single story across its first 22 movies about the Infinity Stones. Thanos acquired them all in Avengers Infinity War, leading to the snap that wiped out half of life in the universe. With Endgame on the horizon, it's safe to say that the heroes who met their fate in that film won't stay gone for good. As the trailers for July's Spider-Man Far From Home show, Peter Parker and Nick Fury at least won't remain as dust. That doesn't mean we won't lose other beloved characters though. Probably the saddest change the MCU is expected to make after Endgame is the demise, or maybe just the retirement, of the Avengers leaders Iron Man and Captain America. This could also extend to Thor. The contracts of the actors who play the three characters, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, and Chris Hemsworth, will be completed with this movie. And both Downey and Evans have indicated that they will be ending their run with the MCU after Endgame. If one of these three actors were to return, it would most likely be Hemsworth. He had a blast filming the third Thor movie, Thor Ragnarok, and might be up for more. But the powers that be at Marvel Studios will have the last word on that. That means there are only 3 original Avengers who we can count on to appear in future installments of the franchise: Hulk, Hawkeye, and Black Widow. Mark Ruffalo and Jeremy Renner each have at least one more MCU appearance in their contract. And after years of fan anticipation, a Black Widow movie is finally in the works, with Scarlett Johansson on board to reprise her role and possibly start a movie series of her own. The official start for Phase 4 will be Spider-Man Far From Home, and Feige has stayed rather tight-lipped about what could happen after that. One thing's for sure though, the MCU has already introduced several new superheroes that could become major players in the next few years. This includes the newly introduced Captain Marvel, as well as Doctor Strange and Black Panther. In fact, in addition to the Black Widow solo movie, we could be seeing both Doctor Strange 2 and Black Panther 2 sometime during Phase 4. Of course, some brand new heroes are sure to be introduced in the coming years as well. The team we're likely to see on the big screen next is the Eternals. Director Chloe Zhao has already been hired to helm the film. She's in the process of casting it while the start of filming is slated for September. So if things go as planned, we could be seeing the Eternals as early as next year. Marvel also has a movie in development centered around Shang-Chi, a martial arts superhero. That character could be introduced during Phase 4 as well. In theory, we might also get Guardians of the Galaxy 3 soon. The movie was planned for Phase 4, but has since been pushed back indefinitely after director James Gunn was abruptly fired last year. Feige has said that the movie will happen at some point, but there's no word yet about when. Plus, it's hard to say if all of the actors from the original Guardians team will be returning at that point. While we'll continue to see many of the MCU characters we've come to know and love in the future, new ones will also join the shared universe. Based on what we know, this should also usher in a new era of increased diversity in the MCU. Up until now, the franchise has mostly consisted of white men, continue to contain a variety of different superheroes with their own individual movie series. Also, these superheroes will come together periodically for a supersized team-up. Of course, Feige did have a caveat, cautioning that Marvel is still going to be flexible about the format of its films if the situation requires it. Still, fans can feel comfortable about the basic structure that they've come to expect won't change too radically anytime soon. No matter how the MCU changes in the wake of the Disney-Fox merger or after Avengers Endgame, Marvel Studios has earned its fans' trust. We expect the MCU to continue to be one of the most exciting and fun shared universes in movies, and we can't wait to see what happens next. Are you excited to see what's coming up for the MCU? Leave a comment and let us know. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on any super news. Thanks for watching.